Oh hey, you clicked on this video. Very good decision. Very good use of your time, I'm pretty sure. So to get it out of the way early, yes, it's clickbait. I don't really like the term broken in fighting games. I mean, generally speaking, there aren't things in modern fighting games that are going to be so egregiously strong that they just have to be banned. But for the sake of argument, does Londrekia have something in his kit that is way overtuned, something super powerful that no other character has that pushes him over the top? And the answer is kinda yeah. But in order to talk about that, I feel like I first have to get some of the other stuff out of the way. I have to beat the allegations of what people think is broken about Londrekia. And at the end, I can talk about what I really think is broken. Okay, let us start with the lowest possible hanging fruit. Icicle Rain. Yes, that's right, Icicle Rain, not Ice Rain. Get with the program. Ice Rain is fast. It's probably about 20-ish frames TK. Hits full screen. And it does a bajillion damage, right? These are the things that we know. Okay, prepare yourself, because this is gonna sound like downplay. Okay, put a little faith in me. I do think the move is really good. It's really good at policing the air.
Nah. What do you do? Ice Rain me?
It's really good at clashing with other projectiles in kind of interesting, unique ways. It's really good for covering your back, quite literally, because he has no air specials. Especially if you want to 9JA, if you have that itch to scratch. You can scratch that itch, and Ice Rain will have your back. So it does have this really great utility to it, but some of its qualities are a little overblown. For one, it does hit full screen, but unless they have debuff on them, you're not actually confirming that hit. Frozen Vine is much, much better at doing what Ice Rain does, because you get that full screen snipe, you get the full combo from it, you still get really good damage, and you don't have the need for debuff or an extra 100 meter in order to pick up on that. Also, as fast as Ice Rain is, it is nothing on EX Frozen Spire. EX Frozen Spire is 8-frame startup in this version, and you can set up a lot of full combo trades with the opponent once they have debuff on them. Something really simple like 236A, wait, 236C is really good. There is a place for both, but I put more stock in EX Frozen Spire's ability to put up a wall in front of me, because it covers that assault range really, really well, really, really fast. There's a place for both. Okay, so what about the damage? The damage is absurd, right? Well, I needed to know where it sat compared to every other character. So I went on Twitter, started a little thread, got people to submit what their highest EX damage starter was, and the results are pretty interesting. You can see them down in the description. Where Lon sits is like a little on the higher end of things. He's definitely up there, but definitely not the highest. And his starter comes with a caveat, which is depending on how many hits of Ice Rain you get, you may or may not get his highest damage. It's kind of RNG. And you can win in the RNG if you know, and you get like 12 hits of Ice Rain, you're like, oh, you're smoked, you know, like you can win in the RNG, but it is RNG. It's kind of hard to be consistent with that high damage on it. Where I'm going with this, the point being, EX moves in neutral that lead to 4K are very much the flavor of this game. It's more of an exception to the rule if your character doesn't have one. So Lond is very much in line with the rest of the cast in terms of Ice Rain damage. I was a little surprised, but it's not that exceptional. Okay, moving on from Ice Rain, these next sections will be a little shorter. Let's just knock them out. Okay, Rekka frame data is the character. In my humble opinion, that is what he does. A lot of Rekka frame data is pretty fair, with the exception of third stage A Rekka being like way too hard for 6-frame characters to get a punish on in the corner, because they go to shield, last stage A Rekka, green shield pushes you out, and they have to micro dash throw to get their throw punish, and it's just like a really annoying execution check. So I could see making third stage A-Rek of -3, that'd be a little bit more healthy, but aside from that one thing, Rekkas are very well balanced, and I will die on that hill. I think they're just fine. Okay, moving on from that, 4C has a lot of problems and a lot of matchups. You don't want to press that button. You want them to get hit by that button. You don't actually want them to block it most of the time. There are a lot of ways to blow it up if the opponent has the read on what option you want to use after it. So very good, but it comes with a lot of risks. It's more interactive than you might expect for a fully disjointed launcher that leads to a high-low. It depends on the matchup. 5BB, my beloved. What a button. What a button. I actually saw Ohito tweeting about 5BB after my match with Omni at Crossover Arc, and he nailed it. Ohito totally gets it. So this is the thing, the button itself is really good, but none of that is what is actually most important. It's the ridiculous reward he gets, and I'm not talking about damage. It's probably too high, okay? Even given that the other characters are doing kind of similar damage off of good starters, that's not the point. The point is that he gets a freeze route from it anywhere on screen. Literally anywhere on screen. So, the freeze is important, pivotally important. Finally, we get to what I actually think is overtuned about Londrekia, and it's 2-2C. Specifically, it is using 2-2C as a combo extender and the way that it interacts with grid in this version. If you aren't aware, Uni 2 did away with the legacy mechanic where when you do a long combo, like 12-ish seconds, the opponent who is getting comboed will start to gain grid during the route. We affectionately know this as welfare grid. They did away with welfare grid, and honestly, I'm really happy about it. But now that that is gone, the can of worms has been opened. I called this for Londrekia back in the beta, okay? I tattled on myself. I put it in my beta feedback form. I said, hey, maybe there should be some kind of cap on the amount of grid that you can gain, because, like, should I actually be able to get Celestial during my combo? I'm not sure. Not only was it the same on release, it was actually much worse than I realized at the time, because what I didn't realize at the time was when the opponent is grid broken during the combo, grid gain from concentration is just totally uncapped. It's just take as much as you want, pretty much. So you get to concentrate past 6 grid blocks, just guaranteed. You can even do it on block. You can get Celestial on block. Like, what do you want me to say? That's crazy. But let's back up. Lond is not the only character that can put the opponent in an extended combo state and concentrate to win the cycle. Okay, Carmine and Byakuya have been doing that too for multiple versions, and they still can, but let's just look at the frame data, okay? Let's look at the numbers. Okay, first up, let's do Carmine. What we're gonna do is, when I concentrate, you'll see this little total number going up. So I'll start with 2-2C, and then we'll just concentrate until Wagner comes up off the floor. So let's see what number we get. Let's take a look at Byakuya. Same thing, but with 623C. Okay, significantly less, like about 50 frames less. Okay, now let's look at Lond. You know, so it's actually pretty comparable to Carmine. It's actually about the same. The difference is that if I have the meter for it, I can just keep extending. Okay, we get here. Let's keep going. For the record, all of these kind of assume you aren't going to be doing something like, you know, actually, let's drop a bomb. I'm curious. So we're talking about being at 3 or 4 grid blocks to a guaranteed 5. So Lond is definitely the biggest grid guzzler this game has. Low-key, when things line up and you really abuse this correctly in a match, this is actually worse than Vorpal Strip. I think many of us, when Vorpal Strip was removed, were pretty happy because it meant that all of the preceding interactions would still factor into the next wake-up situation. Like if you have a huge grid lead and you get hit, you at least have that consolation prize of being able to leverage CS on your wake-up. And no one can take that from you, except I can. I can. I'm being permitted to, and so I will. And so here's the other thing. If I spend 200 meter to do that second extension and be very sure that you don't get to use your cycle at all, and then I win Vorpal, I use it to safely meet you, and that CS builds me back towards 100 meter. I run some pressure, I build back up to 100, and then I abuse the other really cheap thing about 2-2C. I say, whoa, situation be upon ye. And I 2-3-6A, 2-2C in my block string. I become Seth on demand, mail order Seth. And if you take that throw with debuff, you take 2.3k, which is what a lot of combo throws are doing for damage. It's pretty respectable. You get shimmied. It's not the worst from a 2-2C starter. It's not hitting 4k. So what is broken about Lond? It's not ice cream. It's not Rekkas. It's not 4C. It's not even 5BBBBBBB. It's EX Blossom, and it's not even close.
This move is so strong. So strong.
That thing, in my opinion, is what pushes Lond arguably into the top 1 territory, because no other character has the absurd degree of cycle control that Lond does. Like when you say, yeah, this character benefits a lot from system changes, you could be talking about like any character, you know? But Lond really, really abuses these new grid systems. So it's not about the character itself, is it? It's about the system mechanics and the way that he interacts with them. Londrekia, my sweet boy, he did nothing wrong, okay? Uni 2 is the enemy, okay? Now, I'm not a dev. I'm just a player with smelly opinions. But if it were me, I would implement a harder cap on grid gain and combos so that you have no chance of winning Celestial. There is a really good kind of grid proration system where when you get up to 5 grid blocks, it becomes really, really hard to get any more. Your grid gain slows way, way down. So the grid proration is good. I think that is a good system. I just think that it might need a little bit more. So if you can't, hard cap the amount of grid that you get during combo, the other thing might be slowing down the Vorpal cycle, actually, if the combo is like really, really extended. I'd be okay with that. There are already some other systems involving changing the cycle timer. Like if you successfully shield, the timer moves forward a little bit. I would be okay with cycles taking a little bit longer if the combo is like really, really extended, because then you at least give the opponent this little pocket, this little window to work with where they could still swing grid when they get up off the ground, They still get to interact a little bit. And since I'm getting all of my opinions out there, I think that outside of being the #1 grid guzzler, Lond is pretty well balanced. My only other gripe is that his combo damage without debuff is pretty high. If we look at these optimal combos, okay, so if we just look at this 5B section right here, this will tell you everything that you need to know about kind of my gripe with the damage. This is doing almost 3.8. This is with debuff. It's it's less than 100 extra damage. Less than 100 extra damage. So while it feels cool to sweat, really, really get your debuff routing down, while it feels good, it doesn't feel as rewarding as it maybe could be, because we're talking a tiny bit of extra damage. And sometimes the route is strange enough, it's kind of weird enough, that it feels like you are working harder when the opponent has debuff to do good damage than you are without, which is the opposite of how I feel like it should be, If you just shaved off like 200 damage, then when you did do that debuff combo that does, you know, almost 3.9, it would feel so much more significant to me. You know, I don't want to be working that hard for 100 extra damage. If I'm working that hard and I'm getting 300 extra damage, then I feel good about this, you know? It feels worth it. It feels right, you know? So that would be my other suggestion. That's the only other thing, really, is that if you tone down the damage without debuff, it'll make getting that debuff route all the sweeter. I would be way okay with that. All right, that's it. That's what's broken. All right, see ya.